Before you can begin the modifications, you must visualize the modifications. Oh, those Brussels sprouts were not a good idea. Not a good idea. Think about how you can most efficiently maximize this fishing vessel. Patience. Don't you hate it when your astral projection does all the mods for you and doesn't shoot any video? Okay, so as I've hinted at in some of my other videos, I do have a brand new boat. You've seen little flashes of it in some of the things that I've done. This is my brand new Bite FD. This is a Jackson boat that was new to 2020. I don't know how many they sold this year. I know that they've had limited stock at OKC Kayaks where I shop, but I was able to get this one on a really great Black Friday deal. Super excited, and I tell you what, so far the pedal drive has lived up to the extra cost that it requires to get into it. Man, it's really changed the way I'm able to fish in the wind. So today I'm just going to walk you through my modifications and what I've done on this boat so far, and I'm going to start back up here at the bow, but I just wanted to give you a quick overview. So as you know in my other videos, I have a modular DIY battery box system that I built for the Kilroy, so I could just take that thing on and off. I've adapted that to this with very little modifications, if any at all. The only thing I've done to this is I've just put some Velcro, some industrial strength Velcro, both on the box and then also down here in this front deck kit, or this front tank well area, excuse me. And then I just bungee this thing in place, this arm right here. You can just fold it down, and then this will pull out and then back around for bungeeing for transport to keep that in place. Haven't had any issues with this thing flopping around so far, and so that's really nice. When you're ready to get out on the water, that's all you have to do to deploy your sonar. So that makes it really nice, with no in-hole access with this boat. I really debated about trying to run cabling and things like that through one of the transducer scuppers, but I tell you what, this system works really well, and literally it took me 2 minutes to install it. So you can see up here I have added gear track along this. Pull that back out of the way. I've added gear track here. This is a ball, 1-inch ball, 1-inch ball, and then these are little rod tip guides. You'll see what I do with them here in just a second as we continue to go walk through. Now, one thing I did do with this, because this boat is really has very short gunnels on it, as you can see, it's pretty flat. That makes it great for draining water and gives you a lower wind profile. It makes it a real pain for running rods, and again, you don't have the in-hole access you typically would with most boats, like a hatch or something you can run your rods down underneath the hull, or underneath the top deck. So what I've done right here is a little on-deck rod storage system. Now, obviously this isn't lockable, so you don't want to leave your rods unprotected in this. But if you are just making a short trip back and forth to the lake and just want to be able to store your rods conveniently, number one, I have attached a J-hook right here that I attached and just riveted that in place. Then over here I've got a pad eye and then a bungee that just runs across. And then as you can see, it runs down a length of the deck, and then I have used I think it's like E6000 adhesive and some black PVC, and then I've made these rod tip protectors back here. This will prevent the rods from wanting to slide back out of the boat, which believe me, it is possible to do that. I almost lost a couple of rods, and you can stick about 3 rods in here even with the rod gloves on. So that's been a really good system so far. Really happy with that. That's kept the rods really nice and secure. That bungee in place, they're not going to go anywhere. Usually I have about 5 or 6 rods I carry with me, so by the time that I get all those rods in place, these things are stacked in there pretty good, and it's under a lot of tension. This bungee is definitely enough to keep them down and keep them in place. And as you can see, this is a 7'2" rod. Plenty of room to run that along the deck there. Now I'm going to go ahead and just kind of show you how I've got this thing fitted out real quick. Over here on this side, as you can see right here, I have one of the Yakattack cup holders, and I've got magnets in the bottom of that that I've epoxied in place, and that allows me to store baits in there with a pretty good amount of tension. Like those things kind of snap down in place, it'll grab onto hooks. That's kind of my little junk drawer right there that I throw just, you know, kind of random baits throughout the day in as I'm switching things out. Obviously I've got it set up with the Omega rod holder here by Yakattack. Then I've got an older ram ball mount rod holder on this side, a little lower profile, a little more versatile for just kind of slapping in a quick spinning reel or something like that. Right here, this is another little rod holder that I've got. Now this is one of the ram tubes that I cut down, and I will show you basically what I do with this once I get the seat in place, so I'll revisit that. And then you can see I've got some other bungees here. I'll revisit that once I've got the seat in place as well. Then I've got another cup holder over here that I actually, you know, use as a cup holder, believe it or not. Okay, and the next thing you'll see here, and before I get the seat in place, I'm going to show you this. I've rigged up a system of bungees. I've done this with pad eyes. I installed 3 pad eyes over here on one side of the deck, and then 2 pad eyes on the other, and then just have these attached with hooks so that I can reposition these as needed with the hooks. Just unclip it, and then I'm using that for storage underneath my seat to make sure it's bungeed in place. As you can see, moving back, I've installed more gear track here, and I've installed more gear track in the back as well that I've built this little wing onto, and I'll show you how that functions here in just a moment as I get this thing fitted out like I would for fishing. Okay, so next area I want to show you real quick that I did, because it's going to be harder to show after I put the seat on, is that I did rig up under seat netting, and basically I did this so I could kind of use this area under the seat as storage area for the stuff I like to get to on a regular basis. So in here I've got ruler, scent, scale, super glue, just kind of your random stuff that you kind of need out on the water. And then over here I've got my caustic case. If you've seen my other video that I did recently about breaking my dam, Costas, like, you know why I have that. So that's the underneath modification I've done for the seat. I'll show you what else I've done to the outside of it here in just a second. Moving along the seat here, I actually built a little side caddy system. If you've seen any of the Burley Pro stuff, it's similar to that. Again, I've got more Kydex here that I thermoformed around my pliers, and then mounted that to a 1/2-inch sheet of HDPE. And then I've also got one right there for my little Cow Coast donkey leash. And you can see I just attached that to my seat with zip ties. So I've got that on both sides. I've got 3 zip ties attaching that in place. Basically, I mean, that makes everything just kind of grab and go. So I've always got those tools right there. It's just nice. They don't bang around, they stay in place, and you just don't have to worry about them slipping around on you. Obviously, one of the things you're going to notice here, I've got an anchor wizard set up here, and I'm going to show you here in just a second what I'm going to be doing with that anchor wizard, and I'll show you how I attach that basically. All right, so here I have it set up like I typically would for fishing. As you can see, first of all, I'm going to show you here, I've got the Sonar up. I've got my net mounted to a Roto Grip paddle holder up here by Yakattack, and there is not a place for that built onto this drive. I think it would be smart for Jackson to actually add some type of a drive attachment point up here, just even if it was just something small that would allow you to attach like a track mounted accessory on top, similar to like the Yakattack, you know, mighty mount system, where it just let you mount one thing. What I did is I actually used my heat gun and some ABS plastic I had around some Kydex, and thermoformed a sheet, and then zip tied that around there, and used that as kind of a mounting point to be able to put this paddle, or to be able to put my net up there. And as you can see, it stores very nicely. It doesn't get in the way of the rods. It doesn't flop around, splash around and make noise as I'm trying to pedal. So it's really nice and out of the way. Now you can see back here, you know, you've got your tackle storage right up here, and you can still use that with these rod holders that I've got right here. I really like having rod storage that's horizontal that you can just reach down and grab, and that's what I did right here. And to make these little like basically kind of rod guides up front, I just took some PVC, I believe that is 3/4 inch inner diameter PVC, and just got some little track nuts down there on the bottom, and you know, just kind of put that together. Basically just cut a segment out and then sanded it down. I've got one on the other side now, so combined with my rod storage here, my rod holders there, and then my horizontal rod storage on the other side, I've got 4 rods now that I can store up front and just have very quick grab and go access for my rods, at least 4 of them up front. Now, kind of moving back, as you can see, one of the things I did do here, I went ahead and drilled through this like plastic covering that you have for the steering system, the steering rod guides. But I just put a J-hook down there, and that just gives you some security. Keep that rod in place in, you know, the event that you knock it around. Of course, I've got one on the other side as well that hooks up. As I mentioned earlier, I've got the cup holder there. And then looking back, you can see like what I've done here with that bungee underneath the seat. It allows me to attach several different things. First of all, I've got my measuring board that just slides in place right there, so it's just right there when you need it. When you get a fish flopping around on the deck, you know, it's hectic enough anyway. I just wanted to have it there. Over here I've got a box that I can slide into that place, so I've got 3 3600 boxes that I can store within arm's reach at any time, just right there with the seat. And then I've also got additional storage right here underneath this section of the seat as well. So attached to the Anchor Wizard on this boat is a little bit of a different system. You know, this boat doesn't come with a lot of gear track. In fact, the only gear track that's installed from the factory is right back here. So I added at least, well, there's additional gear track that's used for the seat down here as well. Oh yeah, speaking of which, I meant to mention this earlier. I'll get back to the Anchor Wizard here in just a second. I want to show you what I use this for. This is just like a vertical rod storage that I use. So when I want to, I can just reposition this, kind of move this around right there. What I've really found that rod storage is handy for right there is when you want to tie a new lure on or something right there. It just allows a real vertical storage for the rod. Makes it easy to get to your reel, so you can hit the slack button, you know, the release button on the spool. Just makes it a lot easier for rigging purposes. And then I like this thing because when you don't use it for that, you can just put this down and just get it out of the way so it doesn't get in your way. This track system down here actually I found is pretty handy, not just for the seat. Now obviously if you're sitting farther forward and you have a little bit shorter legs, then you might run into an issue where you don't have that much room available on this because you need the seat to be closer. But for me, where I sit with the pedals, I pretty much have the seat completely in the rear position, and I think that works pretty well for me. So getting back here to the Anchor Wizard system, you can tell these covers for the steering rods right here, I was a little bit apprehensive about pulling them out. These are not under pressure. They're just literally just kind of plastic covers that are just in place. You know, there's no tension or anything on those steering rods. So these things, you just pull them off with screws. And basically all I did was just pull off these 4 screws here, and then there were 2 screws underneath here that kept this middle part in place, and where you need to mount the Anchor Wizard because of the way that this is contoured for easy reach. What I did was I actually just left the bottom 2 screws undone. Let's see if I can get underneath there and see right there where the screw hole is, and then I just put the screw straight into the plastic of the boat, and then put a little sealant on top of them so that it would be nice and sealed. But that is actually not connected. This thing is still like really solidly in place, so you don't have to worry about that. To attach the Anchor Wizard, just 1/4 20 bolts, and then or screws, excuse me, machine screws, and then just nuts on the other side to keep it in place. So with Anchor Wizard, I have that running back to a wing that I've built. And again, let me just point out this. This is for my C-Tug, so I've got it attached down there with my C-Tug system. If you haven't seen that video, this is where a camera mount goes. So I've made use of like additional track. Like I said, I mounted this total of 6 pieces of track on this boat. And then this back track back here I used to make a kind of a wing, you can see, to mount my Anchor Wizards, my multiple Anchor Wizards. And my anchoring system. So this is where I would attach a traditional anchor right here, and then I would use this Anchor Wizard here to deploy that. On this side, this is my DIY push-pull anchor system. that self-deploys with gravity. And with this one, I've upped the game than what I had on the Kilroy, because I just use the anchor wizard now. You can see that sticks, then to reel it back in. Oh man, it's so smooth. That is the best way to use one of these self-deployed pole systems, is with the anchor wizard. I'll link the video in the description where I first saw that, because I can't take credit for that. I saw a guy that was installing a Yak Gadgets power pole system, or manual power pole system, and that is what he had in his video. So you can check that out in the description there and go to his video. I don't want to claim that one. But as you can see, also on the back of the seat here, I've got my waterproof satchel. This is just kind of where I store all kinds of like my snacks, you know, car keys, things like that, because it's waterproof. It's got a ton of storage underneath it. I just attached that up top with some carabiners and some loops of paracord. And then on the internal side right there, you can see where it's attached up here, these loops. I've just put some zip ties around that to attach it to the MOLLE system on the back of the seat. That is pretty much how I have it set up for fishing. Normally, you know, this is just a demonstration video today. Normally I would have more rods out than this, but this gives you an idea of how I have this thing set up. One thing that I don't have on here yet is my crate. Let me put that on. So I'm going to show you here from the front. This is my crate system that I built for the Bite FD, and I think it fits really, really well. As you can see, I've got additional vertical rod storage right here if I need more rod storage. I've got a tube mounted on this side, so I've got a total of 4 rods I can store there. With the horizontal storage that I have up front, that's plenty. I'm going to get into my crate system a little bit more in another video, but suffice to say, one of the things I did do, as you can see right here, like these empty holes, that is where I removed bungee. They had bungee that was strung all the way across this thing in like the crisscross pattern. You know, with a crate like this, I wanted to get something that was going to optimize the tank well and make up, get as much size as I could, because this thing has no in-hole storage. So the more you can store, you know, up top, the better. And this thing really maximized the footprint of the tank well, as you can see. This is a rigid box. I'm going to do another video on this, so you're going to be seeing that in the What's in the Box Part 2 video. What's in the box? And so this is going to be my crate setup, I think, moving forward. As you can see on this side, though, one of the things I did do, instead of the traditional like kind of take well crisscross bungee setup, I just have these carabiners here that I just use to clip in place. And there we go. So that pretty much covers from bow to stern all the modifications I did on this boat. I got to tell you, this was an intimidating boat for me to initially think about buying, because of the complications of not having the in-hole access. I was really apprehensive about how I was going to be able to rig this thing, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to rig it in a way that I felt like maximized efficiency, the way that I like to out on the water. The fact of the matter is, though, this boat, you know, is very, very riggable. One of the things I want to point out, though, and I, you know, point out right here, when I installed these gear tracks, I installed them with rivets. I did not install them with like top mount screws or anything like that. I went ahead and installed rivets. These things are on here. I don't have any worries about them pulling off. You know, I'm not attaching something like a landing gear that's going to be putting a lot of stress on it. So I think the rivets will work just fine. But, you know, those are the kind of things you have to do. You have to get creative, I think, in terms of mounting things up on these top rail systems right here. I think you have to get creative about how you manage this deck space. I think you have to get creative about how you manage the space underneath the seat. There's a lot of it, you know, because you don't have the in-hole access that you would otherwise. You know, my system for mounting my sonar up here, I was able to adapt from the Kilroy, which, you know, was not in this, you know, a sit on top boat, but it had kind of a similar issue because, you know, as a sit inside, again, the level of access you have is different for wiring than you would with a traditional, you know, sit on top with some like hatches and things like that that allow in-hole access. So don't let that throw you. You can do a lot of things with this boat. Like I say, I've got a shit ton of stuff that I take with me out on the water, too much, and this boat will accommodate it. You can do it. You can manage it. You can rig this thing out like crazy. Just because it doesn't have in-hole access, don't let that intimidate you. There's still plenty of ways that you can rig this boat out and make it super, super, super fishable. All right, thanks guys. I'll have more bike content coming out. I'll do a full review on this boat after I've had a little more chance to fish it, and I'll come up with some pros and cons that I like about it, things I don't like about it. And I'll have some more bike content along the way, but this is a good overview right now of what I've done so far to modify this boat. Thanks.